Alright, hey guys, Deck here with Deck Star Wars, and today we're going over the spoiler review and discussion. So, if you haven't seen episode 2 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, do not watch any farther. There is going to be spoilers. Okay, so the end of episode 1 ends with us seeing Boba Fett off in the background. And now that we know Djarin did get the Mandalorian armor, the Boba Fett armor from Cobb Vanth. So what I'm thinking is they're going to save that until way later in the show. They're not going to do anything with it now. All right, but what they are doing is this. So this episode is more like a side quest. So if you have like a roleplay game and you're like, all right, well you need to go get this kyber crystal so you can make your lightsaber. That is that would be a main quest. This is, hey, escort this person around, and that's the side quest. So that's pretty much how this episode goes. All right, so it's not bad. It's a pretty good episode. There are a lot of people that are disappointed with it, but overall, there's also a lot of people that love it, and I think it's a really good episode. It's not going to be on the level of the first one for season 2, or some of the episodes from season 1, but it is pretty good. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I can understand why someone would give it an 8 out of 10. But honestly, if they give it any lower, I don't see why. There's not enough negatives in it to go much lower than that. Maybe you can really push your 7, but no, nothing lower. Anyone doing like 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so the first episode was about 52 minutes, somewhere around there, and this episode comes in about 35. If you do see it on the thing, it's going to say like 40 or something, or 38. Just know that I do not count in the little recap, and I don't count in the credits, because that's not what you're watching. You're watching for the show, not just the after stuff. So altogether, it's about 35 minutes, which is pretty good. This is kind of a child episode for the child and people who love the baby Mandalorian, little kid. Baby Yoda is what you all call him, or the Yodalorian or whatever. But that's what it's mostly about him. They do a lot more with him, and this is kind of generally towards him. So we leave off with, he got the armor, the Boba Fett armor. Boba Fett's watching in the back, or from the little mountaintop, and he's on his speeder and he's driving away. All right, that's where we left off. Now this starts at, he's still driving. There's some bandits. I thought they were going to be some special people or someone hunting them, but no, they're not. They're just random people. It looks like they have a tripwire set up. I thought the Mando was going to do something really cool and avoid it. He didn't. So we actually see one of the saddest things in this show, right? He hits the tripwire and he flips over the speeder. And that's not the sad part. The sad part is little baby Yoda's tumbling and rolling on the ground. It's horrible. That's hurting the little kid. So you have one of the bandits that's like, check on the kid. It's like, okay, cool. So they're going to check on him, so they can use him in a minute. But while the Mandalorian's flipping, he turns on his jetpack and like saves himself, and then starts fighting people, and he's getting his ass kicked again. It's one of those things. It's like in season 1, he gets his ass kicked by by the Mandalorian, and then he kicks ass when it comes to stormtroopers. And then last episode he kicked ass with the Crate Dragon, and this episode he gets his ass kicked by a couple of bandits. And then he starts winning. He's getting the edge. But then one of the guys has a knife to the child. And the Mando's like, don't hurt the kid. Take anything you want. It's yours. So he looks around. He sees the Boba armor. He points at it. And then he looks over at him, and he wants his jetpack. He wants Din Djarin's jetpack. So he says, all right, it's yours. He takes off his jetpack, and he sets it on the ground. The bandit comes over, sets the child next to the jetpack, grabs the jetpack, and starts leaving. And then the baby just watching as this bandit flies off in the jetpack, or starts walking away. And then Djarin clicks the little buttons on his thing, and the jetpack just flies up and slams the dude in the ground. He gets his jetpack, flies back to him and lands in there, and he's got it. And the baby's just like, huh? Like, just look at him like, it's getting some dark thoughts there. So, yeah, so I think that was pretty cool. Now, when it comes down to it, that was the first opening, pretty good opening. And he grabs his stuff, he grabs the armor, and he walks all the way back to the mechanic on the other side of Tatooine. All right, and then he goes into a cantina. He sees that the mechanic is playing a game of sabacc. The wager in is 500. The girl's like, oh, he's doing really good. That was 500 on the thing because he possibly knows where the next Mandalorians are. The girl's like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I win. And then, he's like, I thought you said she was good. It's like, no, getting my money. And just made $500 more because it took yours. So he's like, okay. And they go over there. She's like, she needs safe passage, this like frog, reptile, lizard lady. And then Djarin's like, do you trust her? She's like, yeah. He's like, do you trust her with your life? And she's like, yes. He's like, okay. It's like, we need to go one sector over. He's like, oh, well, that's fine. And then she's like, oh, you can't do like hyperspace or whatever. He's like, no, we can't. We're not flying low. Deal's off. And she's like, no. He knows where the Mandalorians is. He once again says, you trust her on your life. She's like, yes. And he's like, okay, I will do it. He can't speak any frog language that she speaks, but the mechanic can. And they get on. The frog has those eggs. You may have seen them. They were theorized to be a clone eggs or baby Yoda eggs because they didn't know what it has to do with the child. None of that. Oh, that was really far overthought. It's just this reptilian lady's kids. It's the last of her species. And she needs to get home to her husband so she could do it. Well, they're doing this stuff, and then he says something to her, and she's like, how am I supposed to know? I've only met her 10 minutes ago. And he's like, I thought you said you trust her with your life. She's like, well, I'm a good judge of character. So he got kind of roped into doing that. So he's kind of has to fly under the radar. Well, they're pulling off. They're above like some type of snowy planet. And this is where stuff starts happening, right? So two rebellion fighters pull up towards on either side of the Razor Crest. And they say, Razor Crest, who are you and all that stuff? Why don't you have a beacon? He's like, I don't have it. And they're like, well, we need to make sure you're not Empire. And he's like, oh, well, it's broke. It's like, well, you gotta fix it. We'll wait. And he's doing all this stuff. So it's like, oh, well, he's got to get away from these rebellion people. So he cuts the engines and falls with the ship. And he starts doing these maneuvers and stuff to lose them. The good thing is he does. But he slams into rocks and canyons and slides to the ground. Damages his ship a lot, but he stops. So it looks like he's pretty good. Until the ice caves in under, and he ends up in like this ice cave and everything's shattered. But he did lose the rebellion. So I don't know why he can't just say, oh, I'm not Empire, I'm a Mandalorian. But they probably know they can get the background check on it. So he's doing this stuff, and he's like, oh, well, you need sleep. We're not doing things. She's like, oh, he falls asleep. And the baby this entire time has been eating the eggs that the rebellion, or like the reptilian girl is trying to, preserve. So every time he's like, no, don't do that. It's bad. Bad. Don't do that. And they fall asleep. Well, there's a killer bounty hunter droid from season 1. I think it's the episode where they had like the whole crew and they locked the Mandalorian in like a prison. So that droid is sitting on a thing, and she hotwires it so she can translate herself. And he's like, what are you doing? That is a killer. And she says, you're a Mandalorian. It's like, we have to get this mission done. He's like, the deal is off. The ship is destroyed. We're not going anywhere. And she says, am I wrong, but isn't completing a mission part of the Mandalorian's creed? Or is that just stuff that I read that aren't true? So he grabs his stuff and he gets to work. He's got to, he's Mandalorian. He has to fulfill his commitments. He made a deal. He needs to honor it. So he grabs his stuff. He starts working on the thing. Well, the baby comes out of the ship and starts pointing. And Mando's like, hey, make yourself useful. Come over here. And then the child just starts walking away. Well, Djarin starts following the child. I was like, where are you going? Where are you going? I said, get back here. Realizes that there's footprints where the reptilian lady walked off. So he needs to use his infrared to track her. So he walks in a snowy planet to go find this girl. And they go to like this little hot springs area and stuff like that. And she's in the hot springs and she has all her eggs and stuff. And he's like, well, this is not safe. We gotta go. And the child is like trying to get the eggs. Din says, no, don't touch the eggs. I told you already. And he starts putting them all in the bucket, the incubator, and saying like, we gotta get back to the ship. I can't protect you once nightfall comes. And the child sees all these other eggs laying around and decides to go investigate. He starts smelling around. He goes to the eggs. He breaks it open. Sees like a little demon spider, and he eats it. This is not good. Because then all the other eggs starts hatching. And then the big mom spider comes. And the reptilian lady like uses her tongue to grab her clothes to put them back on so she can go to the ship. Then grabs the eggs. He grabs the child and he's like, we gotta go. He's using his flamethrower. He's shooting them. They're running. Goes back to the ship. Tries to lock them into the cockpit. Some of the spiders climb on the baby. They're grabbing the baby. The baby's freaking out. The baby's screaming. The baby Yoda. And then the girl shoots the spiders off of the baby. And then just looks at her like, thanks, I guess. I guess you should, I don't know. It's like, oh, well, thank you, but he doesn't want to say it. And then he uses his flamethrower just to get him out of the door so the door closes. And then he starts it up. He's like, we gotta go. Flips all the switches. He's about to go. The big spider has claws break through the roof. That's one thing I don't know about this, about the show. I have to find out about it. But the spider penetrates the cockpit right above the driver's seat and almost hits Din twice. Once on either side. And then he hears fire blasting. So he goes and he's like, what is that? And he grabs his blaster, he's shooting, cobwebs all in his ship. He walks out. The two rebellion fighters from earlier are sitting there blasting the spiders off of his ship. After that's done, he walks out with his blaster at two rebellion X-Wings and looking at him, and they said, we looked up the Razor Crest. You're wanted in so-and-so. You've got these fugitives. And Djarin, they're like, is this you? And Djarin's like, am I under arrest? And I'm like, well, you should be. He's like, well, I will give you these bounties, these 3 bounties, if you help me fix the hole in my ship and let me go. And they say, you gotta get that transmitter fixed before we blast you to pieces. And then they left. They're just like, we ain't fixing your shit, buddy. We don't want your bounties. We're good. And they leave. And then, so Djarin's there. He grabs the cockpit. He grabs everything. He's like, all right, we're going to go to your home. But we are going to crawl there. This ship is barely manageable. He said, stay in the cockpit because that's the only thing that's pressurized. there's a giant hole in the side of a ship, and all that stuff. So my thing is, he can't fly in the other areas because there's a giant hole, and he can pressurize the cockpit. I'm wondering, is the holes in the cockpit from the spider fangs or spider arms, is that not affecting it? Because I would think that that would have some type of ill effect, and he doesn't show him fixing it or anything. If you know, let me know down below in the comments. But I'm just unaware of that little part, because it does see him like stabbed through the cockpit from the outside. But they hooked up and they're going off, and that's the end of the episode. Ends there. Pretty good episode. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I told you that before. But yeah. So that's the thing. It's a baby episode. Baby Yoda looks like he's like regretting his decision of eating the egg. He looks over at the reptilian girl that they're passaging, and he looks over at the eggs, and he learns back, and he looks all sad, and then he pulls an egg out of his jacket and eats it. So okay, so he doesn't care much. It's all about the baby wanting something and doing it anyway, even though Din is saying no. And it's also about the passenger not doing what Din wants because she's focused on herself. And that kind of seems like the big theme of this episode. And I mean, that's pretty good. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is a little bit I think it's going to come and play later, like the Boba Fett armor, which you did not see Boba Fett or anything in this episode. You don't even see the armor on the ship, as far as I know. But yeah, it's that's the big thing on it. I think it's going to come in later, because the baby started, I guess, still doing what it wants. So we got the baby seeing all this murder and stuff happening. We know the baby is force sensitive, and it's following a Mandalorian, which is not good for a baby's psyche. And we do know that now it's kind of greedy, and it, like, even though Din said no, the baby can't help itself. And that could be something that has to do with, is the child going to go around the dark side? And is it going to follow towards the dark side? We're just going to have to see what happens in time. It'll be really interesting if the baby does go towards the dark side. But I think overall, my theory of this is Moff Gideon is going to be the ultimate bad guy. Boba Fett is going to come with Din Djarin and help him because he needs help. So Din Djarin, I think, is going to get help with Boba Fett against Moff Gideon. I think once they're going to fight or something, Din's not going to believe he's a real Mandalorian, because, you know, he's technically not. And then that his past is untrue, I guess, unexplored as far as Jango is. Whether Jango is a true Mandalorian or born Mandalorian or not. And then, and if you comment down below, just do some research first, because there are things that says that Jango was born on Conquer Dawn, and his father was a Mandalorian, but they were exiled and lost the title. So before you start commenting like he's just a dude who stole armor, just find out, do some research first, because that is not 100% the case. But we don't know his backstory. So the thing is, I'm gonna think that with Boba seeing that Din Djarin took down a crate dragon, I think it's gonna be that it's gonna come on to Boba thinks that Din should rule Mandalore instead of Moff Gideon. So I think Boba's gonna help him. Overall, after they settle their issues. The Pearl might come in thing to do a lightsaber, but I think that might be later on, possibly season 3. I think what's going to happen here is after Din takes out Moff Gideon, because I think that's probably going to happen this season. If not, it will probably be season 3 where all of it comes together. But I think when it's like he's given the Darksaber to rule over Mandalore, I think Djarin would refuse it and give the Darksaber possibly to Boba Fett and make Boba Fett true Mandalorian. That is kind of my theory. And I theorize that Baby Yoda, the child, is possibly going to go through the dark side. And I think what's going to ultimately, like, where he is unruly, I think we could see the child actually knock over, the Mandalorian, use his force powers against the Mandalorian, possibly by the end of the season. And then after that's said and done, I think that it's going to take Din Djarin to bring the child back towards like the light, and that could be like his kind of like a growth for it, to where like the child knows it can't get everything at once, because the child is 50, and we still don't know how it's going to grow, because we know Yoda died at like 900. We don't know how old you are until infancy, and we don't know if you go from like baby to slight talking, or if you can use words or something. We don't know how that yet. We don't know what like the teenage years and all that stuff's gonna look, or how long that stuff lasts. Like, I don't know. And honestly, I think they're gonna have to do something, because you can't keep the baby a baby forever unless you get rid of it before the end of the series. But then it's just, your ratings are going to tank when that happens. But I think when it comes to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau or whatever, I think they care more about the story than they do ratings. I think they'd rather have a full, complete story. And we'll just have to see. But overall, I think this was a really good episode. Really fun. I liked it. Can't wait till next week's. It's going to be great. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all later. If you did, please hit that like, subscribe button. Help me out a lot. Trying to do more things. If you want to see any reviews, if you want to see any like certain Let's Plays or anything, let me know. I am working on Lego Star Wars 2, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and then after that, I'm planning on doing Republic Commando, because it is one of the favorited games, and I've never played it. So it'd be awesome to check that out. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and may the Force be with you. Sorry it's all weird. I don't know where to look because the camera's over here, but obviously it's not doing stuff. Alright guys, I will see you all later. Peace.